And we move on to our next poet now, Sonali Pattnaik. Dr. Sonali Pattnaik is a teacher, poet, visual artist, and academic. She was a permanent lecturer at Delhi University's Kirori Mal College, where she co-founded, along with her students, the literary journal Palimpsest. She has since then taught literature in English, gender studies, and film studies to graduate and undergraduate students for over a decade at several colleges of Delhi University, Mumbai, and Gujarat University. She currently serves as visiting faculty and outside expert on the Board of Studies in English at the Department of English, St. Xavier's College, Ahmedabad. Her poetry, artwork, and book reviews have been published in several journals and anthologies, including the Bombay Review, Yugen Quest Review, the Book Review, the Indian Express, and many, many, many others. Her debut book of poetry, When the Flowers Begin to Speak, awaits publication later this year by Writers Workshop, Kolkata. Her academic publications and interests converge on gender, cinema, and body politics. You can find her work at www.sonalipatnaik.com, and her Instagram handle is @wheresonali. Sonali, we wait with bated breath to hear your poetry.
Thank you so much, Vaishali. I hope I'm audible. I don't have a mic like so many of us. Okay, wonderful. Yeah. So thank you so much for that wonderful, warm introduction. And may I just say you have been a very, very graceful and, just a gorgeous host, really. I just really, truly, it takes a lot of composure, I think, to do these kinds of things, and they don't get credit enough. I want to begin by thanking Smeetha. Smeetha, I wouldn't be here if you hadn't, so graciously, warmly taken me into this beautiful group. I hear others talking about it, and I see that same sentiment that I feel about you echoed again and again. You are a powerful and inspiring collaborator, other than being a fellow poet and artist and all of those wonderful things that you are. I think this is what you do so well, and to my mind, across hierarchies, because there are so many esteemed and reputed poets and so many budding poets and emerging voices and so on, and that's a marker of truly feminist collaboration, no hierarchy, speaking truth to power, absolutely. So thank you so much, and congratulations to everyone here. I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to each and every voice, and so divergent and so beautiful. So I'm just going to read 3 poems, and they more or less share a theme, I think. That's how I kind of decided to do this. A lot of my poetry, if I can describe it as resistance poetry, it speaks back to power, whether it be patriarchal power or state power or whatever the case may be. It speaks back to power, and it tries to rethink, things, structures of power, which are often handed down to us as desirable ideas. So whether it is heterosexual, coupling, whether it is love as portrayed in Hindi cinema, whether it is the idea of a home portrayed through books and children's fairy tales and so on. As a mother, I feel this even more strongly now than ever before. We replicate structures of power. So my poetry tries to reimagine what all of those objects and concepts could be from a more feminist agency, from the point of view of a desiring, aware, knowing female subject, right? So the first one does that for the idea of home. So it's called "Can a Home Not Be?" Can a home not be plural? Does a home have to be a thing? Grilled windows for openings with teeth and floors for standing still, even as it crushes and disjoints every other little girl's bones inside of its mouth, that home lives as a thing desirable, glistening. Does a home have to be singular? Do we not learn to live and bloom in homes away from homes? Could not a self itself inhabit, stretched across seas of pages and floating ink? Does her home have to be a static, suffocating totality when she could choose instead the uncut grass of truth as carpet beneath and hang her hammock on arms several, spread on bed of chosen calamities, her voice a roof over her brokenness, sheltering her heart word for word, as she dips her ladle in the pot of multitudinous seas. Can a home not be an elsewhere or a many? Does it have to be a thing? Smells, tastes, sounds that come like ghosts from before, haunting and transporting, are a kind of home, an address that deliver. Can a home not be a river, forever moving, looking for somewhere to stop, to call it a day? But when she does, becomes one with the sea, does she remain a river still? A need, a right, a home can hide as much or more than it gives. Does a home erase just a little of who you are in its need for fealty? Homeless most when evicted from your own self. You slowly learn to love your being upon leaving some spaces and promise to make a home with legs the next time you start to build. Do you not live then where you speak from, in the brick and murmur of your voice, that is? A home with wheels as you choose to live with freedom and pride, and a grocery bag full of good questions. Can a home not be a kind of being? Thank you. So the second poem that I have is again something that I do very often in both my teaching, my research work, as well as my poetry, which is examining forms of masculinity. So today, I think students often use the term toxic masculinity. I think that is the more available word. I have reservations against the term, but nevertheless, yes, it is toxicity. There are forms of masculinity around us that really do need to be unpacked and questioned. And if we don't do that enough, to my mind, the feminist dream or the dream of women's empowerment, because that's what we're gathered here for, it honestly remains a job half done. We celebrate ourselves, but we don't unpack, forms of masculinity that oppress. So this one is a little humorous. It's a little tongue in cheek. It's got little irony. It's called That Man. That cool Casanovic controlling man, nursing a drink and accusations in his hands. Secretly, he burns to be a woman. Or so I imagine when I see that tightened chest heave in a show of girth for the lack of softness of voluptuous breasts that he desires beneath. He plays it cool. He needs a woman fooled, someone he can have coiled around his legs. A woman who is sinking creates the illusion of his rising. He thinks if he's got her under his thumb, he's got it made, he's dumb. How he must long to be, I wonder, as he plays the field, that which he pretends to need in his hot pursuit of prey, in order to not turn on himself in his overcompensating macho-ness. Could he ever know that he is both object and subject of his own lust? Would he know that each time he hunts, he kills two birds with one stunt? He will groan with envy, not pleasure, every time he goes down on her. And as time goes and he hacks into her heart, beats up what he cannot have, with growing certainty, he knows maleness is just a part he must play to its logical end, as a smokescreen for his incurable malady. Thank you, Smeetha. Thank you. Thanks. Okay. Do I have a little time, Vaishali? The last one. Okay, super. So the last one is a poem of self-love, and then I will end with a four-liner, if you don't mind. It's a short one. It's called Paint Ladder. It speaks from the artist in me also. And I know that many of us are artists here because we don't see boundaries between words and paint and so on. But I also believe that a lot of talk is made of self-love these days. There are a lot of spiritual guides and so on. I do think it's something that comes through after a lot of suffering. It's not something that you can simply just, claim without having walked paths that are, handed down to you, but may not be, paths of love, may not be paths that recognize who you are truly. So you go down the wrong path, and then you start to realize, and then you rebuild. So this is what the poem is all about. It's about reclaiming love for oneself. I see this ladder. I have always wanted to paint a ladder. I see that you read my mind. Let's paint together, you whisper. You put your hand out, I take it, walk closer. I paint the first rung a silvery blue. You paint a golden moon. The next step, I paint yellow. You draw with a pencil many sunflowers. The third one, I smear with color, using my hands for every hue that I can reach. You keep handing me pot after pot. Finally, I'm standing at the top. The air is sweet, my feet with wet paint adorned. I burn the last step gold. I turn around and find you gone. Climb with me, I shout to no one in particular. An echo greets my words. I step down carefully and find no trace of you ever having stood on the same ground. No footprints, no scents, no sound. But the ladder is still here. It shines with color, it stands tall, and it invites me to climb alone. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And just 4 lines to end my session. I hope I've done this in time. Just 4 line poem. It's called Bleeding. This is part of my book, which should hopefully come out soon, still in the process, in the press, as it were. Um, it's a short 4 line poem, Bleeding. You can cut my tongue with the blade of your hate. I will bleed my truth through other gates.
Amazing,
Thank you.
amazing,
Thank
Sonali.
you.
I mean,
Thank
like,
you.
such power and such truth. You speak truth to power through your poetry.
Thank you
Okay?
so much.
And please always keep doing that. We need poets who keep doing, speaking their truth to power. So thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
very,
you.
very
Thank
much.
you so much, Vaishali. It means a lot to me, that response. Really does.
All right.